Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one!
Oladipo!
Another one!
Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown. Jonathan Taylor.
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three and
He hit it.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Indiana Sports Feed Radio. Of course, coming to you from the high atop the 18th fairway at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios Annex. Appreciate you guys joining us today. Jim Coyle with you as always. Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com as well. Of course, we're brought to you by AnyMoreHonda.com, where you can always find the best deals on new and used vehicles, as well as Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club. Make sure you go there, sign up for the Wow Club today at your Apple app or Google App Store. Start earning wow rewards from great places like BB's Market, where I am normally at on a Friday. I'm on assignment today, so not there today. We'll return back to BB's next week, but no matter what, they still have the greatest meats and in-house made products and a full-size bakery. It's the greatest around, so make sure you stop in. Welcome in to the Friday edition. Always a big lineup. Alec and Lasley will be joining us, of course. We'll get you up to date on Indiana recruiting news and information, what's going on there. Alec from thehoosier.com. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star will be joining us as well. And then we hit the red zone with our friends Mitchell Page and Jeffrey the Greek. I've sworn off betting, Dustin Shooting.
Based on the last week,
Two weeks.
Probably
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
It's been a wise decision. The offer was really when you should have thrown in the towel.
Well, it basically was. It just angered me. But yeah, what are you going to do? How's everybody doing? I hope you're having a good day. Looks like Tim is in the hospital. He's getting ready for foot surgery. Well, we wish you well, my friend. Hope you can get up and running around. Rudy the boxer with us already. Michael, Heath, appreciate you guys. Hope it's a good start to the Friday. The weather is supposed to be increasingly nice today if you're in the central Indiana area at least, or around the state of Indiana for that matter. Let me check this out here as I gaze upon this forecast today. 0% chance of precipitation. Mostly sunny skies. A high of 72 degrees. Tomorrow, just because 1% of precipitation. Mostly sunny skies. A high of 77.
Whew.
Oh, hold on to the hats. Sunday, Monday, a high of 79. Tuesday, 77. 64 on Wednesday, 68 Thursday. So we've got a solid week of good weather. Only real chance of rain looks like on Wednesday. So yes, baby. If you're out there golfing, get out, get you some golf in this weekend. You can go hiking. What are you doing this weekend, Dustin?
This
you always
weekend,
have something exciting to do.
I don't. I am actually, this weekend, I am working. So I will be in the house for most of it. But that's okay, because next week I am going to the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, or whatever the hell the SEC has renamed it, between Florida and Georgia up in Jacksonville. So I got to work this weekend, but next weekend I'll make up for it by probably indulging in some tailgate foods and an adult beverage or two or three.
Tom listening in from Ormond Beach, Florida. Appreciate you, man. I don't know if I've seen your name on here before, Tom. We welcome you. If not, appreciate you checking in. I'm gonna have to see if there's a way to check, John. I would like to know what the second biggest. I mean, Indiana is obviously our biggest audience. Of course, starts with the Ref, WREF, 97.7 ESPN down in Evansville. We're on radio there. On WBRO, we're on radio there as well. But if a lot of people like to watch on YouTube that aren't in those areas. And I think Indianapolis is our number one market. Chicago, number two. How about that? But I would love to know how many people from Florida, because there are a lot of IU fans listening in Florida, and we appreciate all of them. Phil, Northern UP got 14 inches of snow in our south. Got a dusting. 6 degrees. Woo! See, that is why when I was in Minneapolis, I asked the very question. Yeah, it was nice then, but it's not going to be. Why?
Right.
Why on God's green earth would you live in a place that is going to get like that if you don't have to? If you have to, I get it. But my friend Pete, who he won't be on for a while probably, lives in Minneapolis. I don't know why he stays there. I should have asked him that. Why? Why?
Yeah. Jim seems to be cutting out at the moment.
Why?
But,
no.
I just
don't understand that sometimes.
Yeah, I wouldn't
You know
either.
what I mean?
I do know what you mean, because living in Georgia and Florida for the past 6, now it's going to be 7 years, I hate when it snows. And it seems like every time I go up to Indiana, it does snow.
Wait a minute, why you got to throw Indiana into this mix? None of this stuff is about Indiana.
I'm just saying, okay.
I was talking about Minneapolis. I was talking about the UP.
I know. But I'm
There's Pete.
Talking about your point.
I can ask him right now. Need to come work for ISB, then I could. There you go. All right, there's the goal. But why? Do you have to stay there? I'm just telling you, it's a nice place, but there's no way on God's green earth. If I didn't have to live any place north, I would.
I wouldn't either.
Now, yeah, it's just I just the cold's bad. When I was in school, I'm from Southern Indiana, very close to Louisville, and Bloomington is only an hour and a half north of there. I remember when I was in school, though, Bloomington seemed like the North Pole in January. It just seemed like it got so cold. But how's everybody doing? Lots going on. College football expansion, not by 2024, not quite done yet. We're going to talk about that as see if they can get that done. Mr. McCaffrey traded. The Panthers sent him to San Francisco. He gets a lot of how long? What's his shelf life? He's a running back.
I know, but he has been unique in the fact that has it been maybe not quite a decade, but it seems like it's been a decade since he's been in the league. Like he's one of those players that has been incredibly durable. I couldn't tell you why that is, but it's him with Deebo Samuel is going to be really fun to watch out in San Francisco. I don't know what his shelf life is, but he's been productive basically his entire career. He's not the best at his position, but you'll take durability and his ability to break free and to make big plays any day of the week. So it's a sign that the Carolina Panthers are obviously going to blow it up. They already fired Matt Rule. They brought in Baker Mayfield. What they have is not working, so they're going to try to build. But I'm excited to see what he can do out in San Francisco, because I think that combination with Deebo and now Christian McCaffrey, I think those two guys can be a heck of a 1-2 punch for the 49ers.
Speaking of Matt Rule, where's he going to end up? Or before I get to there, Tom that's now in Ormond Beach, he moved to Florida the day after the blizzard of 78. He graduated early. I'm telling you, that's when I was a kid. I remember 78, 79. We got blasted, like 60 inches of snow 2 years in a row. It was crazy. He probably put a plow on the front of his truck and just kept driving south until he stopped and somebody said, "Hey, what's that thing on the front of your truck?"
Yes.
Boom. That's when you know you found home. Let's see. Heath says, mentioning IU hoops recruiting, seems that the IU hasn't got an IU hoops recruit in a very long time. Lots of swings and misses. Well, there's going to be a lot of that when you put out that many offers. And we'll talk. That's a good question. Well, we'll talk to Alec about. They did miss out on not getting Arrington Page. Was one I think that they counted. I don't want to say counted on, but had really hoped for. But also, the portal is a wonderful place. If you don't think so, ask North Carolina. Pete Nance from Northwestern, who would have done nothing at Northwestern, but he was the best. I saw this, someone wrote this, and this was the great way to understand it. He was the best player on Northwestern's team by far. Good player. He goes to North Carolina, probably going to be the 5th best player on that team.
Right.
But they got somebody else's best player. That makes that team good. That's a path that I think Indiana's going to take with just getting through this little dip of recruiting. Recruiting's wild right now, man. It's not as easy as you think. It's not as easy as NIL. It's not as easy as the school. There's so much going on. A couple of those early recruits that IU missed out on, though, that was more home. Those kids were closer to home, so I get it. They'll be fine. Indiana's going to be fine. You cannot land Jalen Hutchifino and Malik Renault and those kind of guys and it not have an impact. But Indiana just simply has to win. They have not done anything yet. And I saw someone else responded to something I wrote, was that these guys want to see what he does with these players. The development. Tamar Bates is one that comes to mind. Last year he had a lot of off the court stuff going on. So I think you're going to see a great improvement in him this year and a step up. If not, then you got some questions about development because you've got Jordan Geronimo. Is he developing? Trey Galloway, is he developing? Logan Duncombe, is he developing? So a lot of questions that will be answered with the play of a lot of these guys. And I think that's a part of the recruiting. Yeah, everything's in place. Woody's got the NBA experience and all that, and it's Indiana, and they have no problem with NIL, but you got to win. I think.
Well, and I think it's still. We talked about this with Kyler on Thursday, in that a lot of these other schools, Mike Woodson and his staff are still kind of new to the party, and they plant the seed pretty early in the recruiting process. So they're still kind of late to the party. So you might still get some good players, but these are kids that might have long relationships with guys like Tom Izzo, John Calipari. Why am I blanking on his name? Hubert Davis at North Carolina. I know he's a new head coach, but he was on that staff for a while.
And Duke's coach is new also. But what is not new is all of those programs you just mentioned have current success, continued, sustained, and current success. That's something Indiana can't say right now. They have not had that of late.
And those other two coaches, North Carolina and Duke, they knew those were retirement situations. They knew who the next head coach was going to be. When you make a firing, you have no idea. So you could go into a recruit's house and say, hey, here's going to be our next head coach. Whereas Roy Williams could go in and say, Hubert Davis is going to be the next head coach. And he was on staff for a long time too. Coach K could go in and say, John Shire is going to be the next head coach, and he was on staff. I don't know how long, but I think it was a while. So it's still new for them. You're going to have some swings and misses. The good thing is, though, they are still getting plenty of interest. They're getting kids on campus. They're giving them serious consideration. So that's a good sign. It's not like Indiana's putting all this effort in and they're just completely dismissing them. The fact that they are in the hunt for some of these, they're able to get the kids on campus. There's some level of intrigue there. That's a sign that they're doing pretty much everything right. But as you mentioned, Jim, some of these kids want to stay close to home. Nothing wrong with that. Some of these kids want to go to a more proven program. Nothing wrong with that. So all the pieces are in place. It's just adding in the winning. And then on top of that, once you get into maybe about year 3, you're going to start the playing field's going to start to level off. And the fact that you are now all recruiting the same kids and you're going to have the same chance to get in there early with some of those top prospects as those other schools like Michigan, Michigan State, Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, all those other schools.
Yeah. Indiana wins this year, competes for the Big Ten championship. Does something in the tournament, boom, it's that will kickstart it. Looks like it's time to take a break, and it is, because we've got Alec Lasley coming up here to join us from thehoosier.com to get you caught up more affirmatively on recruiting information for IU and around to see what's happening. Hey, we're brought to you by BB's Market. Make sure you stop by, located on South College, just north of Bloomington South High School. Best meats around. We got lots more coming up, and we'll get to it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting,
I've got those. I know you don't need them right now, but for later, whenever you want them, those clips are getting uploaded at the moment.
Let's see, Shiano and who else?
No, it wasn't Shiano. It was Tom Allen.
Oh,
That's the email I have, at least.
that timestamp.
Questions.
That timestamp. Okay, well then when you have a chance, pull Greg Shiano. That was the timestamp I gave you. Was for Shiano.
Oh, see, I was wondering. I was like, these times. I was like, this doesn't match up with what he told me.
No, yeah, sense. I don't know. I think I was past the middle. Question wise,
it doesn't matter. I already got your Tom Allen stuff, but I'll.
Oh, okay.
Greg Shiano,
That's a timestamp of 8:50.
I got you.
And it's up on the site. It's up on YouTube.
All right.
Hello, Alec.
Morning.
Good morning. Nice little light you got there.
Oh yeah, in the reflection. Yeah.
No, I thought you meant you just turned one on. What were you getting ready to say?
Oh no. I just switched tabs.
I thought you were going to say about me.
I was. You're like, yeah, you always complain about me being in a different spot. This is a different background again for you.
Hey man, when's the last time you saw a different background besides Minneapolis?
Well, you used to be down in it looked like a basement area, but it was probably just your office with all the stuff in the background, and then you switched to more of a white background.
Well, that's because I moved.
Whoa.
Different location. We moved the office. It's high atop. It is literally now atop the 18th fairway.
Wow! Look at you. Now you can.
The funny thing is, when I had Dane on the other day, he was talking about, yeah, man, I just played out at the point, pulled up there. I had a sign hanging up, right, with this nice tee section. It was awesome. And he goes, I saw your sign, your name there. He goes, oh, blah, blah. I'm like, man, that sign's not there anymore. Some lady just cut that down like a week ago. We blasted her on here. We got a friend of mine had a picture of her walking across the green with my sign under her arm and the shear cutters in her left hand with the zip tie still dangling off of the sign.
All right, here we go.
Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. It is Friday. Man, that makes everybody happy. That means we only have one more day of the week to work, right? Welcome in Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com, the associate publisher, senior writer. How's it going, man?
It's going good. How are you guys doing?
Good. Basketball around the corner. I know a lot of people are ready to get that underway. Still questions about recruiting. Just had one. I should have marked it, but it was basically asking about, IU having missed on the three big recruits that visited, and of course the last of which of those was Arrington Page, who committed to USC. Can't blame him. Beautiful out there. They're building their program up too. They know that they're coming into the Big Ten, and they're not going to come in empty-handed. USC and UCLA. They're going to come swinging, I think. But getting back to the recruiting aspect on Indiana, my point, Alec, is that until they win, it doesn't matter. They're going to hit some, miss some, but they still haven't won. And this season is the season where that changes, or that can change. If they're competing or compete for the Big Ten championship and they make noise in the NCAA tournament, then these kids will see, okay, this is not only is Indiana, this is all this stuff I've heard of, but now I can see them winning. And I think that has to happen before they're going to start landing multiple big-time recruits.
Yeah, it's tough because that's the one which came first. The chicken or the egg. Do they get the players first, or do they start winning first? Because obviously, at some point, you do need to win. But in another sense, you still need to be able to get the players to put out the successful seasons and get the win. So it's something where Indiana's going to probably thrive off of the transfer portal this year and still probably next until you get to that maybe deep into the 2024 and then 2025 class, just because this staff really hasn't had a lot of time to kind of build those early relationships with the class of 2023. Obviously, you're seeing that already with 2024 guys, and then Trent Sicily especially, and Jalen Harrelson in the 25 class. But other than that, I mean, they were behind the eight ball, and I think you have to take a step back and look at the success that they did have already, though, in the class of 2023, right? I mean, I think a lot of people forget about Gabe Cupps and Ja'Kai Newton, who are both four-star guards, both extremely talented players at the high school level. They just don't play on a huge national circuit. And that's starting to change a little bit with Centerville and Gabe Cupps. They're starting to play a little bit more on the kind of national limelight with some big time games last season and then this season as well upcoming. But when you look at their class, right? I mean, they jumped off to such a strong start with two early commitments basically before the season even really got started. And then they took a huge, obviously, step back with not being able to secure anything in the summer. And so a lot of people have recency bias with not being able to land any of those guys. At the end of the day, yes, they definitely needed. I think the one out of those three or four were Arrington Page. You definitely needed at least one of those. Obviously, we're not able to get that. So, you go into this season looking at now just the transfer portal, and that puts a lot of pressure on the staff. That puts a lot of pressure on them trying to kind of make roster movements at the end of the season. We know that's going to happen regardless, but you go into that knowing that you need to land someone rather than some other programs just looking in the transfer portal and kind of saying, hey, if we see someone that we'll like, we'll take them. Indiana needs to land at least two guys from the transfer portal, and so that puts a lot of pressure on the staff to be able to actually secure something in the springtime. With a lot of decisions, it'll probably still be kind of up in the air. It does help that there may only be one or two NBA decisions from this group, with potentially Jalen Hood-Schifino, and we'll see what happens with Jordan Geronimo and Tamar Bates. Those seem to be the other two guys that seem to have the most potential NBA wise out of this group at this current moment. But when you look at the rest of the roster, right, Xavier Johnson, Miller Kopp, Race Thompson, and Trace Jackson Davis, they're not coming back. So you have extra spots that you can fill. So that will be helpful. Whereas last year, right, you were kind of waiting to see what Trace Jackson Davis was going to do before you went into that transfer portal and got someone. And that kind of had their hands tied as well. So, all in all, I think that this class is going to be a good one. We'll see what happens in the transfer portal, but I think getting a big and then getting a guard is key and a necessity for Indiana in order to keep whatever momentum that they get this year moving forward.
And you talk about the transfer portal. I mean, to me, it's a 100% now a factor in everything, and I'm not trying to say it's not, but to me, there's also a level of you got to cross your fingers and your toes and hoping that the right players enter the transfer portal. So, does that add to the pressure? Because it's not really something they can control. Whereas on the recruiting trail, I don't want to say you can control it, but it feels like you have a little bit more control. You don't know who's going to enter the transfer portal at the end of the season. You could potentially have guys go, I guess, midway through the season and keep your eye and make contact early. But it's a mad rush and a mad dash there once the season ends. I know Indiana has had some success in the past, obviously bringing in Xavier Johnson and Miller Kopp from Northwestern. But it's they don't have any other options, but it's kind of playing a dangerous game because you got to make sure that those right pieces get in there. You don't want to just bring somebody in just to bring somebody in.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? When you look at high school recruitments, you have 4 years almost to build those relationships and to make sure that they're the right guys. And it's interesting. I heard, I believe it was Mike Bray, obviously Notre Dame head coach, talk about it the other day that he recruits and kind of digs into the kids that he's recruiting as much as he does as the parents. And so when you're trying to build a program, which Mike Woodson and the staff are trying to do, that does kind of bring up a huge kind of question mark because you have to make quick decisions and you have to move quickly in the portal in order to obviously get these kids to commit to you. So that's why, I don't want to say it's kind of going in there blind because a lot of these guys do have obviously some sort of resume to follow them. At least the players that Indiana would be going after, which are, guys who probably only have 1 or 2 years left. High impact players who can come in immediately, which is what they're going to need. So you at least have that resume behind them. Then it's about just being able to connect right away. And typically, the best kind of commitments from the portal are short recruitments, ones where you pretty much know right away that, hey, this is kind of the school that I'm interested in. They know that I'm interested in them, and it's pretty easy to figure out. The ones that kind of drag on a little bit longer are the ones that are kind of iffy. You looked at Dexter Dennis, basically the lone option for Indiana last year ended up going to, I believe it was Texas A&M, the kind of combo guard. That one had a lot of steam for Indiana right away, but because they were not able to really pick or choose him because of the decision that Trace Jackson Davis had to make, it kind of just put them, in the back seat there. But these are recruitments that have to move fast, and so you're going to hit on a lot, but you're also going to miss on a lot. And I think not to say that Indiana really missed with, Parker Stewart and Michael Durr, but, those were two that probably didn't fit exactly what Indiana was looking for skill wise. And you got it with the other two. I think you'll see that this year, obviously with Miller Kopp, but you got that last year with Xavier Johnson. So, you're probably going to, in recruitments, you're going to miss way more than you're actually going to make, but it does put a lot of pressure to be able to kind of make that immediate impact in that transfer portal that Indiana is going to be looking for.
Alan comments that he just read the media watched a practice. First of all, that's not accurate, and says IU essentially has 2 starting fives. I don't know where you read that, Alan, but there is no media in the practice that I'm aware of.
I
would be awfully upset if that was the case.
It was Demps from Big Ten Network, I believe, who was there for practice.
Oh yeah. But Trace Jackson Davis had made this comment as well. But I think personally that's him being a good team member. I'm sure that second unit is definitely much, much stronger. But 2 starting fives, no, I'm not going to say that is the case, because there's no way that you have a starting five that could equal Trace, Race, Miller Kopp, X, and Jalen Hood-Schifino, which will undoubtedly be the starting lineup. But that is important that the second unit is much stronger now. But that's the case only if Tamar Bates has made a big jump. Or basically all these guys have to make a big jump. But that's the secret to this team being successful or not. Although I think they're already going to be better just because of Jalen Hood-Schifino being in there and playing with Xavier. I think they're going to be like 2 point guards.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think realistically, does Indiana have as good of a bench as there is and as deep as a skilled bench as there is across the country? Probably. But their starters are, there's a reason why pretty much everyone knows what this starting five is already going to be like. You have a 6-year guy in Race Thompson, 4th year in Trace Jackson Davis, two grad transfers, obviously, in Xavier Johnson and Miller Kopp, and then you bring in a 5-star freshman. I mean, that's pretty hard to compete against when you're talking about a bench unit. So, I don't necessarily agree with the statement that Indiana has 2 starting fives because, one, the point that you mentioned there's still a lot of question marks on this bench, right? We don't know exactly, what jump Tamar Bates is going to make. We don't know what jump Jordan Geronimo is going to make. I think that's more of the question mark in my mind than Tamar Bates, because you do have the luxury to have depth and skill in the backcourt now with bringing in Jalen Hood-Schifino. That kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off of Tamar Bates playing heavy minutes. But where is Jordan Geronimo going to fit in this lineup? He mentioned a lot about wanting to play on the perimeter. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that point has kind of backed off a little bit. So how's he going to fit? What specific role is he going to play on this team? Because now they have Malik Renaud, who can come in and play spot minutes as needed and be pretty effective in that. I mean, we've heard a lot throughout the summer and early parts of the fall here, what he's doing in practice and just how good he will be right away and how good he will be down the line. So, I think the big question on the bench is what Jordan Geronimo can do, what role he will play. And we'll kind of fill in the pieces after that. But this starting five is a starting five for a reason. I don't think there's going to be any change throughout the season with that. And then Jalen Hood-Schifino just kind of, I think, brings an extra dimension that we've talked about ever since he committed to this program, to this Indiana team.
Big important visit coming up, though, from Asa Newell, a class of 2024 5-star prospect and another Montverde Academy forward. Speaking of Montverde, I think I retweeted this yesterday, but Montverde Academy has probably more players in the NBA than maybe any college currently. They have 13 players in the NBA right now. Is that stunning or what?
Yeah, and again, I think we talked a little bit about this too, but when you look at their most recent guys, which are pretty much their standouts, a lot of those were on the same roster for 2 or 3 years.
6 of it? Was it 6 you said?
Yeah, it was 5 or 6. Yeah, I mean, you look at Cade Cunningham, obviously between their sophomores and junior years, right? Some players obviously had bigger impacts throughout the years and how long they were there. But Cade Cunningham, Daron Sharp, just some of them, the most recent ones. But then you go back to D'Angelo Russell, Ben Simmons, I believe, were on the same roster at one point. They stack their rosters from basically sophomore to senior year, and they always bring in new kids. Just with the same thing that happened this offseason. They lost a lot from this past year's national championship team. They go out and they bring in but pretty much 5 or 6 5-star top 10, top 15 type players in the 24, 25 classes as well. I believe they brought in another 2023 5-star as well. So they reload. They obviously can continue to do this year in and year out, and that's why getting one of those kids to commit to your program as a college is so essential in building some sort of pipeline. Whether or not you get it every single year, talking about Indiana here, it just builds that trust with the coaching staff down there, that they know, hey, as long as you take care of this kid, we're going to keep pushing kids to visit there. We're going to keep having you guys in for for all of our practices and games. And, let's be honest, if you have that relationship on your side, it doesn't matter if you miss on almost every other target that you have. If you get 2 Montverde kids coming in every single year,
hey, you get Asa Newell and Liam McNeely. No one's going to be thinking about Arrington Page or anybody else. And again, because the guys that come from there are talented, and hence by the 13 guys in the NBA.
Well, and they're ready. They're ready. They're mentally and physically
they're ready. They're ready to play right now.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about Jalen Hood-Schifino. He is that's a big reason why this team is going to be a lot better, is because he is just mentally forward, ahead of a lot of players. He just has to learn the IU system, learn Mike Woodson's system, learn the defense and all that, which I think that is something he'll pick up easily. But Asa Newell coming in, how important is that visit?
Yeah, extremely. He's already been on campus for an unofficial visit earlier this summer, kind of late spring, where he received the official offer from Indiana. But Indiana's been up there for a while in terms of kind of programs at the kind of main part and main group of his recruitment. Still kind of getting going. He visited Georgia a few weeks ago, where his brother is a walk-on on the basketball team. So Georgia's definitely. You have to
worry about Georgia.
Well, I think Georgia's definitely one to watch here. Obviously, with Mike White kind of starting to build something there, we'll see what happens. But again, when with talking to Asa and his dad, they've been very open about, we want to see what happens with Jalen and Malik. Obviously, they didn't play together last year, with this as being Asa's first year down at Montverde. But when you look at that duo and how important this year is for Indiana in developing them, right? If you potentially have a one and done Jalen Hood-Schifino and you have a Malik Renault who comes in and, even if he plays 15, 16 minutes a game, right, off the bench, and is in store to start as a sophomore, coming off of a potential, Big Ten, leader, that's significant, right? And you look at what they're losing in the next couple of years, Indiana, that is, and that just makes this move and this transition that much more easy for someone like Asa Newell. But it's a key visit. I think the noise around Derek Queen is kind of settled down. He's visiting Maryland this weekend. Indiana's still going to be involved until the end there, but
Maryland is going to be a team to be reckoned with probably by next year.
Yeah, and the thing is, with the job that Kevin Willard's done there, obviously they seem to have gone head-to-head with Indiana in almost every single recruitment that Indiana's been involved in at the moment. But that the Asa Newell one is significant. One, Maryland's not really going to be involved in that one, but you do need that type of skill set, and he brings that type of skill set that Mike Woodson's going for. And now to have an extra year of seeing what he's going to do with Race Thompson and Trace Jackson Davis, even Malik Renault, I think is going to be significant for him. But being able to see a little bit more of this Mike Woodson system and scheme is going to be important as well.
We've got to take a break, but who else is highly involved with Asa? Is there anybody close to Indiana? Is Indiana kind of the leader, thought to be a leader?
Yeah, I mean, Georgia is definitely going to be a major player here. You have other programs like Arkansas, I think, is going to be very significant here. Florida State, some of the other ones. There's going to be other ones that jump in too, but I think that's kind of, when you're looking at a main group at this point, you're kind of looking at those. I think I don't think Florida State's been as involved as they will end up being, but I think that could be a player as well, just with what they typically get out of those long, lanky, athletic hybrid forwards, which is what Asa Newell is.
Hey, we're talking to Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. If you don't have a subscription, you should. Keep up on all recruiting news from Indiana and news all around. We're back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by GoTeam, part of the Endeavor Wild Club. Make sure you go to your Apple App Store, Google Play Store. Sign up for the WOW Club. Start earning WOW rewards today. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Golfers, here's a
I assume I'm staying on for another segment, or is
Oh, you know what? I
Zach
forgot.
coming on?
When does Zach come on?
Usually
9:30.
he has been coming on now, so that's why. I
No,
didn't
that
know.
was that one, the most recent time that you both were
Oh,
on.
that
and
was it?
came on earlier.
Do you need to
That
go?
was just one.
No, I'm fine to stay. I just
Okay.
didn't know if there was any sort of adjustment.
Hey, what's new? Anything new? Anything different? Talk about stories. Well, I mean,
well,
for you that you're working on, or
I mean, not a ton. We're coming out with some more recruiting stuff here in the next few days. But other than that, I don't want to say this is the lone kind of sort of dead zone, but even when you're still having visits, but it'll pick up next week, obviously with the exhibition game, and then moving into the season with recruiting stuff.
I wish you all would have
we-
separated these segments by doing one of them with recruiting and one of them actually talking about the current team. That would make
we're not
Well,
going
we
to
don't-
talk.
we don't-
We're not talking about recruiting in the next segment.
I know, but you did
We
both
could've-
in the last segment.
It doesn't matter. Just consider that when recruiting.
We could have talked about the guys IU was visiting this week, though.
Well,
The
that's
stuff that I had
different.
up on the site. Yeah.
We'll do that. That's a different subject. Visits. Outward visits. First one was inward visits. Inbound, outbound.
Which flight is inbound? Which flight is outbound?
God, speaking of which, I got all kinds of flight crap to straighten out. Airline just changed my flight to Vegas.
When do you get
Oh,
in?
yeah, here's a good question. There was the secret
No, there's
scrimmage
not.
stuff last year.
There's
Uh-huh.
not
What?
this
Not
year.
doing that this year? Interesting.
No.
I didn't hear what he said.
Oh, well, apparently it's irrelevant.
There's what? There was what change?
No, just there's no secret scrimmages for Indiana this year.
Oh, the secret scrimmage. How funny.
The secret. Yeah.
I've
the
already
secret.
forgotten about those.
All right, here we go.
Secret scrimmage.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Friday. So TGIF, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you. With Dustin Schutte, as always. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com joining us right now. We're brought to you by Remax. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between you getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com with me, like I said, talked recruiting in the first segment. Hey, the IU UK series, man. I talked to Mike Woodson at Big Ten Media Days about it. He didn't give a lot. I asked him for a timeline, and he said hopefully within the next 2 or 3 seasons. And then, of course, at SEC Media Days, I don't know why they let Calipari have all the thunder, but Calipari makes the announcement that an agreement in principle has been reached between Indiana and Kentucky to resume the series in 2 years from now, I believe. So Mike Woodson was – I wish he would have let me know that he was really hinting there when we did that. But it doesn't matter. It's happening. Now the next question is going to be, what's the format going to be? Rick Bozich weighed in, and I agree that if they want to do a one each at a neutral site, but you've got to do one each at Rupp and Assembly Hall. It's just that's some great college athletics right there. I mean, when you look at the Tennessee-Alabama game. I mean, you can't have that moment in Pasadena. Even if it was for the Rose Bowl, it would not have been what that moment was. So that's why the on-campus stuff is important. I'm so sick and tired of hearing Kentucky fans whine about stuff that wasn't even the real reason why this thing ended. They got their butts beat. That's what the reason is. He brought a number one team into Assembly Hall and just got his ass beat by a team that he shouldn't have. And the last time Indiana and Kentucky played, Indiana won again. So I'm looking forward to it. I will say this. It was probably fortuitous for Indiana that the series had not been continuing to go because Indiana was in that lull. Because this series was, tied. Indiana may have led it before Indiana went on a little, not a little, but they've been on a dry spell for a while. I think it's 32-25 is what this series is now, which is kind of surprising, knowing that that's the end there has not been good.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone pretty much knows kind of what assuming the administrations both agree on this, which I think, unless something kind of crazy happens, I think should be good to go. But I think everyone should know that it's probably going to start in Rupp, probably going to go to some neutral sites, and then.
Whoa! Why would you think it would start in Rupp?
You're telling me John Calipari is going to agree to something to start at Assembly Hall? There's no way. There's a reason.
No. I think that they start on the neutral sites.
We'll see about that. I'm not.
You know why? And do you know why? This won't happen for 2 more years. So then if you do 2 neutral sites, that's 4 years. A 5th year in Rupp, I don't think he's going to be here in 6 years. I don't know that he's going to be here in 4 years or 3 years. Maybe not in 2 years when the series resumes. But I think that he'll set it up to where he does not have to go back to Assembly Hall, even if it's scheduled.
Well, yeah, that's why when you look at the Gonzaga series that they scheduled, they're not going to actually play a true road game at Gonzaga's campus until the very last game of that series, which is in like 2026 or 2027. So there's a reason why he's doing this. But at the same time, I mean, Indiana and Mike Woodson, he's been very open about wanting to get this on the schedule, playing at any point of the season, playing anywhere. So when you look at that, I would not be surprised to see Rupp first because of that, then neutral site, and then some sort of return to Bloomington. I don't foresee Calipari wanting to go to a neutral site first. I think he would want to at least begin the series and have all of that.
Well, if it was at the Yum Center in Louisville,
why would they go to the Yum Center? Why would they go to Louisville?
Well, where are they? That's where they used to play their neutral site game there. They played in Freedom Hall. Dude, it was split down the middle, black, blue, and red.
Yeah, but after everything that's gone on with this series over the last decade, they're not going to play at the Yum Center.
Okay, where is their neutral site game going to be played?
They'll probably go to Chicago. They'll have one in Indy.
Really?
They're not. Why would they go to they're not going to go to another college campus.
They do it all the time. They love playing games in Louisville because they want to keep that Louisville fan base of theirs. They still play games in the Yum Center now.
I don't think they play that many games in the Yum Center right
now. They don't. It's like once a year.
Yeah, and that's when they play Louisville.
No, I meant they will schedule a game. They have always scheduled games in Louisville. This game is always played at Freedom Hall.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying with everything, with all the
which was Louisville's home. That's where Louisville played. That was their gym.
No, I know, but I'm saying with everything that's gone on over the last especially couple of years with Calipari kind of getting dragged through the dirt here with this series. I don't foresee him wanting to go play at the Yum Center. I would be surprised if that happens. Maybe it happens at the very end of the series, but I don't see the first game. If they're not going to play on either of their campuses first, I don't foresee them going to the Yum Center to play when you could easily go to anywhere, even Indy, and still have a huge following of Kentucky fans, right? Kentucky fans are well, I should say, in quotes, fans are everywhere, right? I mean, Kentucky travels to every single event when it comes to basketball. And if you're telling me that you're scared to go to Chicago because that's going to be a little bit further away, I just find it very hard to believe that he would resume this series after this long and play at the Yum Center to begin the series, or even the second game, or even the third game. I could see them doing this at the very end, and then that would be how they wrap it up. I just don't see that happening to start.
Not only that, but John Calipari said when they canceled the series and when they were trying to get it, trying to get it back, but when there are conversations about getting it back, because it seems like that pops up every year in the mid, maybe 2010s, he said he would be willing to play those games at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Like, I think he understands that maybe it's still kind of quote unquote a home game or a neutral site advantage for Indiana.
Well, they get half the tickets, and when they played these games, no matter where it was, even when it was in Freedom Hall, there was a line of demarcation, and you could just see it right down the middle. This side was red, and this side was blue. I mean, all the way around. You could just see it, and that's how it would be wherever any neutral site game would be,
right?
Including Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Indiana would not have an advantage there. I promise you. Kentucky will get half the tickets, and they will sell half the tickets.
Right, but it's still closer to their campus. So the point being is, I don't know why he's not ever mentioned another, as far as I know, another venue. So I think that you could see this series being played at Gainbridge Fieldhouse when they want the neutral site games every year. I don't know that there would be, because there are still recruits in the Indianapolis area. Maybe they'd go to Chicago.
They definitely. See, that's another thing. They love to come to Indiana and play because they want to play in front of this in the state that has the tons of recruits. Mm-hmm. Recruits that like Kentucky, Michigan State, Michigan, whomever, are all after. So yeah, they love spreading that brand. That's what they do. That's why they don't play many, other than conference games. They play very few home and home series with people. He and Calipari never puts his team at a disadvantage. It's like, they're too afraid to. That's why they don't have those true road games. Alec mentioned Gonzaga. So yeah, it is what it is. But I'm just glad to see the series resume. I don't care where they play it. I don't care if they play it in a parking lot at Lucas Oil Stadium. I really couldn't care. You know what? That'd be cool. Play it outdoors. Hey, make it fun. But they could do it in Lucas Oil with those end zone setups, but I don't like those setups. They're not intimate. You lose that college basketball feel, and I don't like that. So it would definitely have to be Gainbridge. And I think you're right. Maybe all of the neutral games could be played there.
I wouldn't be. I think someone brought it up earlier, but I would not be shocked if they do something at MSG. Both love coming out to New York. Both have connections out to New York as well. Obviously, terrific sports market. What better way to have the kind of lights on you than playing at MSG for Indiana and Kentucky? I mean, I think that's significant. But I definitely think you're gonna have this spaced out a few different areas. I just don't know if it's gonna be in Louisville. I can't. I
don't care. Well, you may be right now, and I hope if you are right, especially if it's Madison Square Garden. Yeah. I mean, that's the Mecca, baby. I've been there once for the Big Ten tournament, and just walking around that place. I was
that
like, my God.
That would be
a jewel.
They probably won't do this because it makes way too much sense, right? And no one does anything when it makes too much sense. But I feel like if you start the series off there, that would be tremendous, right? If you bring it back and you started off the very first game, you both go to New York, both of your fan bases are going to be there. It's going to be obviously everyone who likes basketball, anyone who likes sports and knows anything about sports is going to be watching that one, whether or not they really like college basketball or not, just because of all the talk. So I think that would be tremendous to start there, but they probably won't.
I don't think you'll be around anyway. So
could they pull in the is it still the preseason NIT or whatever they play up there? Could they tie that into like a big event?
No. This is a marquee event. It stands on its own. I'm just asking
because I don't know.
Yeah, no, this is a marquee event that will stand on its own. Alec, what's up next, man? What can the people look for? I know this weekend there will always be a live thread for the Rutgers football game, of course.
Yep, yeah, I'll be out there for that game. Obviously, Indiana looking to avoid 5 straight losses. 2 pretty bad offenses going at each other this week, so we'll see what happens with that one. But yeah, so we have that. Obviously, some recruiting stuff coming out over the next few days from the visit this weekend, and some stuff from the staff being on the road, visiting a handful of prospects this week out on the East Coast. Brian Walsh and Kenya Hunter.
Forgot to mention that. Who are the guys that they were out visiting quickly?
Yeah, so Caleb Williams, who 2024, who took an official visit over the weekend of Hoosier Hysteria. They went out and visited him. Jaden Mustaf, who's working on rescheduling his official visit. They also saw Urquiz Passmore as well. So they, I think they were going either yesterday or today to see Dylan Harper, 5-star. But those other 3 are kind of the key ones. I wouldn't focus too much on the Dylan Harper recruitment. That Rutgers, obviously, for many reasons, will have the leg up in that one, being Ron Harper's brother.
Make sure you give Alec Lasley a follow from thehoosier.com. He will be at Rutgers this weekend covering Indiana football for us for the Hoosier.com, and live thread and complete coverage there afterwards, of course, with that. And all the other guys as well. Make sure you sign up for a subscription if you don't already have it. Cannot thank you enough, Alec. Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
Have a good trip. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Barber Pop Real Estate Services in the Louisville, Floyd, Clark, Harrison, Scott County areas down in southern Indiana. They've served that community for 3 decades. No one can get you in the home you want more so than Barber Pop Real Estate Services. Reach out to Barbara at barberpop.com or Matt Lincoln, Matt at barberpop.com. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore.
Hey, John Boy.
Yes.
So what has your buddy been doing, Mr. UK guy?
In what regard?
Being like you talked about yesterday.
Oh, he hasn't been in studio since that stuff I talked about.
I know. What was that all about?
Just so obviously we're in a new building and technical issues are not, they're going to happen for a little bit until everything gets. Honestly, I can't even tell you for how long. And this wasn't a situation involving me. I just heard about it. But they were having trouble connecting a couple of the studios, and the person whose show was going on was furious. And I'm not going to, honestly, you could hear, if you go listen to their podcast from Monday, you'll hear them talk about it. And it's actually hilarious. They don't say anything bad on the air, but I can't believe some of the things that, they talk about over the air. So,
like what?
I'm not.
Well,
I'm not
we'll talk. We'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it later. Zachary,
Morning,
how
Zach.
are you, sir?
Hey, I'm in the car, so I don't have my camera on.
That's
all
okay.
right.
I got to get up to the media school career day. I'm on a panel in 25 minutes, so.
All right, man. Are you the guest speaker?
I mean, I'm on a panel. I wouldn't say I'm the special speaker by any means.
Well, I would definitely say it. I will.
Because right now, I think I'm the late speaker. So I don't want to be the one holding the panel up.
How's what's new, man? How you been?
Fine. I mean, nothing crazy. You know, just everything crazy. It's that time of year. The crossover's heating up, and football's slowing down a little. So.
Yeah. What's new?
Right.
All right. Here we go.
Right. Exactly.
Today, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Friday. That's always good to say. And that always means Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Zachary, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How about you?
Great. Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com, along with me as always. Beautiful, man. We finally got some good weather. Unfortunately, it's an away game this weekend, Zach.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be 77 on Sunday.
Yes.
So one last breath of summer, and then I suspect we will be done with the heat waves until March.
Yeah, I think we'll get a break next week when Indiana. Do they return home next week?
No,
they're still on the road to Michigan. Oh, they have a bye, and then do they go to Michigan State after that?
No, November is Penn State, at Ohio State, at Michigan State, Purdue.
Okay. Man, I was going to say, Indiana desperately needs to get on a win this weekend. You hate to call a game this point a must win, but to me, this is a must win for Indiana for a couple of reasons. If they want to retain any hope of achieving bowl eligibility, which is becoming a more and more of a distant dream, but also to I don't want to say save the season, but to keep everybody engaged because it's going to get extraordinarily tougher after this week.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think that's probably true of both of these teams. Rutgers, I know people don't pay as much attention to Rutgers, but that's fine. That's why they have people like us to do it for them. Rutgers is 3-3. They're coming off the bye. They fired their offensive coordinator during the bye. They've only scored 71 points in 5 games against FBS teams this year. Their scoring average is dragged up substantially by a 66-point outing against Wagner. So basically, if you look at it, they scored 66 against Wagner, and they scored 71 against everybody else. They've only scored, I think, 33 points in their last, or maybe 34 points in their last 3 games. And they're kind of in a position where they're probably telling themselves the same story. If you look at their November, I guess the end of October and the November schedule, just as much as anything, as you said, in terms of retaining fan engagement and fan investment, I think both teams are going to feel a little bit desperate. I don't think Indiana's players are thinking, "Oh God, we have to win this game so fans will show up." If they are thinking that, then they're in a worse mental spot than I thought they'd be. But I just think that generally these are two teams that probably the loser of this game, I suspect, feels like they've lost control of their season, and that's a tough place to be this time of year.
And it's going to be an interesting game, Zach, because Rutgers is coming off an idle week. They've just changed their offensive coordinator. They could play. Greg Schiano has played it close to the vest in terms of their quarterback situation. They've played I think they've played 4 different guys at quarterback at some point this season. So he is a guy that likes to play it close to the vest, much like we saw from Tom Allen in the offseason, in the preseason. To me, this is going to be an interesting game because I feel like what you said, these are 2 teams that aren't very good offensively. But if Noah Vidral does get on the field, Rutgers has taken some deep shots down the field. I feel like this might be an oversimplification of this, but I feel like if Rutgers can hit 2 or 3 of those big plays, that might be the difference in this game, and that's kind of been Indiana's weakness at points throughout this season.
I think that might be fair because Rutgers. The flip side is Rutgers has been pretty good defensively. That's Greg Schiano's calling card. They don't make them out to be a lockdown unit, but the only two teams they've played this year where they've allowed more than 21 points are Iowa and Ohio State. So you can kind of forgive them at least one of those. Obviously, Iowa's a bit of a different story, but I also just think how Indiana handles the adjustments in this game, because Indiana's been pretty transparent about the fact that it's not sure what to expect from Rutgers. Nunzio Campanile, I'm going to mispronounce his name. I think it's Campanile. It has been on staff there for a long time. He was the interim coach when Chris Ash was fired. But most of his coordinator history is in high school. And so it's not even a situation where, like with Walt Bell, when people were trying to get ready for Indiana in the preseason, they at least had tape of Walt Bell's offenses at other stops and could say, let's see if we can overlay some of this onto what Indiana's got and what we know about their personnel and so forth. I think this is going to be kind of the ultimate. I mean, Indiana, I think, has been pretty upfront about saying we're not even sure he's going to be the starting quarterback. So a lot of this game, too, I think for Indiana is maybe going to be a tough couple first drives. Rutgers is also, you would imagine, going to have drilled around basically net scoring on its first drive, getting that good feeling back in its offense. And it's going to be down to Indiana to kind of figure out how do you adjust to what you're seeing on the fly. I think that's going to be very important in this game.
And
Indiana, go ahead, Dustin.
I was going to ask, and the other thing to me that stands out is you mentioned Rutgers is a pretty good defensive team, and like you mentioned, they're not world beaters by any stretch, but they will keep plays in front of them. They've done a really good job this season on that side of the football. But I think they do struggle. They don't have a lot of sacks. They don't get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. I feel like if this was a game where Indiana's offensive line can keep Connor Bazelak, give him a little bit more time, and they might be able to establish some semblance of a rushing attack. That doesn't mean they're going to bust out 150 or 200 yards, but maybe they can get 3 or 4 years to kind of stay on schedule on first and second down. They have a better chance of that, in my opinion. Do you think that's do you see the same thing there, or is Rutgers getting more pressure than what I think, and they're just not getting home to the quarterback?
I mean, their tackle for loss numbers would tend to track with your point as well. I think, confessing that I haven't watched a ton of Rutgers this year, it's not like their havoc plays are way up. They've gained, I think it's 10 turnovers in 6 games. That's pretty down the middle. That's not amazing. It's not terrible. It's just kind of a pretty run-of-the-mill number. But at the same time, they're one of only 6 teams in the Big Ten holding opponents to under 200 yards passing. Now, again, I'd have to go back and look at the Wagner game and try to figure out exactly how much that's skewing things, because it's definitely skewing the scoring averages pretty substantially. But the opponent scoring is not strong. I mean, it's not. Ohio State had 49, I think. Iowa had 27. Boston College had 21. Nebraska had 14. Temple had 14. They are not allowing a ton of points. And so I think that it's, on the one hand, listen, you say what has stopped Indiana's offense the most this year? It has been penetration, pressure that's forced mistakes, 3 and outs, 3rd and longs. And I agree with you that Rutgers' profile suggests they don't do a ton of that. On the other hand, you can look at it and say we've got a 6-game sample size here that says that even without doing that, they're pretty sturdy. They're sturdy against the run. They're very, very, very good against the run. And they're still pretty dang good against the pass, despite the fact that they haven't, as you said, they haven't produced a ton of sacks. They haven't produced a ton of tackles for loss. So you don't look at them as a team that just gets all sorts of disruptive penetration. It is going to be interesting. I think it's a game where the return of a full-strength DJ Matthews, a full-strength Cam Camper, if you can, I think Camper was much more back toward looking like himself last week against Maryland. Matthews, the way Tom Allen described it, is basically they've been able to increase his practice workload without any setbacks, so that's encouraging. If you can get those guys adapted in while also still getting Emory Simmons more touches, because sometimes what can happen is a guy gets a lot of touches when other guys are hurt, and people say, oh, there's a new weapon in the offense, and then the guys get healthy, and suddenly, he was only getting those touches in the same spots that somebody else needs them to. If you can get Emory Simmons, if you can keep him involved in the offense while adapting those two guys back in, and suddenly Connor Bazelak has 3 legitimate targets that he trusts and he's in rhythm with and he's in sync with, I think you've got a chance to hit Rutgers for some quality drives. But I also just think that this is a good defense. I don't think it's a great defense, and I don't think it's a defense that's necessarily going to make a ton of big plays, but I think it's a good defense. I think it's a perfectly sound, solid defense, and Indiana's got to respect that.
We'll absolutely find out this weekend as the Hoosiers travel to Piscataway. I always love saying that. Zach, what's up next for you, man?
Oh, not much. I mean, you got Rutgers, and then I don't know who was in charge of this. I've lodged formal complaints already with the relevant authorities over the scheduling of a men's basketball exhibition at 3 p.m. on Saturday, a bye weekend. Here I was thinking I was going to have the smoker fired up and some football on TV next Saturday afternoon, but no, I'm going to be at Assembly Hall watching IU play Marion.
This is the second year in a row they've done it to me, Zach. Last year, the bye week, I was going to go to Ole Miss to visit my daughter, and the Big Ten decided to have basketball media days instead. And now we've got a 3 p.m. basketball game. So I'm right there with you, man.
I say we riot. I say we strike.
I agree.
No, man, it's that time of year. I mean, it's boring, but it's true. We're all just we're not throwing football in the trash, but we're starting to strike that balance because, especially this year, it's we can have a conversation about kind of where Indiana fits, and we had this on our podcast earlier this week. I do feel like there's a little bit of this sort of, I don't know if I'm buying the hype with Indiana around the conference, and I often sort of want to look at people and say, well, where exactly is the hype coming from? Because even around here, I think people are excited, but I think that they are realistic about Indiana's weaknesses and Indiana's shortcomings and the question marks around Indiana. So I think maybe we all need to calm down on the idea that Indiana is riding a hype wave they don't deserve. But one way or another, we're going to get a look at that team very soon, and I think that it's going to start to answer some of those questions, at least in some very sort of short-term ways about just how good that group can be this season, and it's exciting to think about. And the
IU UK series possibly coming back. Some exciting news there.
Yeah, listen, I'll leave it to fans to yell at each other about who wins and where the games should be played. And, I had somebody, there's a rumor been going around that there's going to be 2 games at Rupp, one at Lucas Oil, one at Assembly Hall. They said, boy, isn't that embarrassing for Indiana? They only get 1 game in their campus, and Kentucky gets 2 games in their campus. I said, no, it's not embarrassing. It's not an arms treaty. It's a basketball game. Just play it. I think college basketball wins there more than Indiana wins or Kentucky wins. We are kind of, not to get existential, but we are unmooring college sports from a lot of old institutions and traditions right now, and we are changing a lot about the face of college athletics, and obviously basketball is not immune. I just think that there's a lot of value in restoring some really quality institutions. And listen, if there is a future where it's basically the SEC, the Big Ten, and then literally everybody else, then let's make sure the 2 best basketball programs in the SEC and the Big Ten are playing on an annual or nearly annual basis. I just think college basketball is the winner here.
Absolutely. Zach Osterman from the Indianapolis Star. Make sure you give him a follow and subscribe if you haven't. Keep local papers alive. Zach,
absolutely.
Appreciate you, brother. Have a great weekend.
Hey, you guys too. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, sir. Zach Osterman with us We'll be back with more, myself and Dustin, and the Red Zone comes up. Yeah, that's up next. Hello, Cal. It's Friday, so that means it's time for the Red Zone. Mitchell Page, Jeffrey the Greek. We got football to talk about, folks. We're back with it. Right after this, brought to you by our good friends at Metalworks Brewing Company, located right off the square in Bloomington. The Old Function Brewery, catty corner from Cabello Restaurant. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Hey, this is Jim.
Hey, I forgot to mention this earlier when you said Jeffrey the Greek, and I thought you already knew because he put us both in the same message thread. He said he may not be here. He didn't say for sure, but he said he may not be here. Mitchell, I haven't heard from, but usually
did you text him today, or was that today he said that?
He sent it last night.
Oh, I never saw it. Did you text him this morning to see if?
I said, yeah, you can join. I said the link to you join if you're free.
But no, you didn't ask him whether he's going to or not?
Well, no, but he would have responded to that more than likely, I would assume, regardless.
Well, I'll just send him a text to ask him. I'd rather just know either way. I don't care.
Let me see what that message said exactly. He may have said for sure, but I thought he said he was going to get back, or he was going to be iffy. He said a low chance of being able to make the show today, but he had some issues he's taking care of.
God damn.
What?
There is. Okay, so I don't know if you guys are on Instagram a lot, but I like a lot of hiking photos.
Uh-huh.
And there was one I liked of this dude running running across a mountain, like the very top of the mountain, and like one misstep and you're gonna die. And now it brings up all these images of these mountain bikers doing the exact same thing. Like, I don't know, why do you people do this? Here, I'm going to send this video.
Don't forget Tom Allen and Greg Schiano clips.
Yep, those are all three
that would be perfect.
Loaded and ready to go.
We'll do Greg Schiano first. How's that?
That's fine. It's long, so that'll be fine.
Jim and John.
The University of Wisconsin police are investigating how sensitive photos of their national champion volleyball players were shared on, and video shared.
Boy.
Oh,
I didn't know that was a thing. Oof.
Oh, yeah, I've seen this video, Dustin.
Oh,
that's insane.
I have sweaty palms.
All right, here we go.
.com right now and get yours today.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Friday. It is a gorgeous one. I hope you're going to get out and enjoy the weekend, watch some football. Do whatever you like. I know people are out in the outdoors. I know we have a lot of people that go camping. So have fun. I'll be thinking about you. That sounds like a great life.
Yeah.
To be able to do that.
It does.
You guys are so lucky. Everybody says, oh yeah, you're so lucky you go to all these games. You're so lucky. You get to go camping and anything that's going on, you get to go. Not us. Like you just heard Zach. It's a bye week next week. We get a weekend off, kind of, for once. Just the weekend, just a Saturday. Not the week. Just get a Saturday off. Really? You got to put an exhibition game at 3:00 on Saturday. I guess it could have been worse. It could have been 8:00.
It could have been.
But that ruins the whole weekend. This would have been a great Friday night game. Great Friday night game. Of course, I know that they're thinking about the maybe the people up north, but I don't know how many people. Maybe coming for an exhibition game, but maybe they are because it's.
Yeah. This was always the toughest part for me with when I was working in my previous position. A lot of people think that we just sit and eat wings, and if we decide we're going to write a story, we'll write 2 or 3 over the weekend, and then that's pretty much it. We get to go to all these games. I went to one game during my previous in my previous position, and I would work. It was 8 a.m. on Saturday till about 3 a.m. on Sunday. Wake up at 7 a.m. and then work till about 4 p.m. on Sunday. So it's a grind. Look, I now have the best of both worlds, in my opinion. I can go camping now in the fall. I can go to some football games, but I still get to cover a lot of sports, do a lot of fun things. So I love it. I do not envy the Rutgers game one week and then the exhibition basketball game the following week in what was supposed to be a bye week for you guys. But it's the nature of the grind, baby.
It absolutely is. Hey, Robert, the truth. Send some food. He's always in need of food or basketball. One of those ships that sailed, I don't know what we were talking about, 5 Leps. I missed that. My bad.
I think he's referencing Indiana's bowl hopes.
Well, and you know what? That's so sad because they should have won the Nebraska game.
Yep.
I don't know if I'm going to say they should have, but they absolutely could have won the Maryland game.
Oh, yes. They should have won
the Maryland game. They should have won.
Yeah.
A critical – they only had 3 penalties, 3 flags. But guess what? One cost them the game.
Yep.
Cost them the game, basically. And that was a 5-year – a captain. And I'm not bagging on him. It's just that when you have a team – who just lost a game because one of your captains committed a personal foul, and man, those are the guys that can't make those mistakes. They just can't.
Yeah.
That's for a freshman to do.
Right. Yeah, when you have your leaders making those plays, and Tom Allen said this, I believe it was the Cincinnati game, although I'd have to check. He made the comment that a lot of the guys, they had veteran guys getting beat on some of these moves in the secondary. I don't want to throw I don't like to throw kids under the bus, and I'm not going to name, but you cannot have that from your senior captains. You cannot. They have to be the leaders of your team. They have to be the guys that are playing the best. They're the experienced bunch. They're the guys that have to be the vocal leaders of this team, and it just so far hasn't been the case. Cam Jones is probably the best leader this team has, and he delivers on the field and with his voice. I know he's been out, but they've got to get better play. I mean, look at this. Think about this, Jim. Indiana is 3-4 right now. They should have won Maryland. Even if you win that, you're 4-3, and you still have Rutgers and Michigan State on the schedule. You're looking good about your bowl hopes. You go back, and if you're able to play well against Nebraska, that puts you at what, 5-2? And then you're really good. You're thinking a lot of good things.
All you have to do is win one game.
Exactly.
But and that's the problem. They have just in the predictions each week in the Hoosier.com. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I talked about you've got to win these games that are quote unquote considered the winnable games.
Yeah.
Well, they're becoming fewer and farther. Fewer.
Right.
Those opportunities are gone away, and it's going to get. If you think it's been tough, if playing against Maryland at home was tough, what do you think it's going to be like to play Penn State? What do you think it's going to be like when you go to Ohio State? Now they played Michigan very tough at home.
They did.
We saw improvement last week with the offense. I think that you're going to see improvement this week, but it's not the offense that's killing them. It's the defense. And that is the most shocking thing because Tom Allen has retaken control of the defense, calling the defense, And now you've got the injury to Cam Jones, which is big, no question. But one guy can't be,
Right.
It's the secondary has killed them, which was supposed to be their strongest unit.
Yep.
And last year they were injured and hurt, and we knew that. Daggone it. Can't think of his name right now. Number 3, great cornerback for IU, Tywone Mullen.
Yep.
Man, has not having a great year. I don't know if he's completely healthy. It just doesn't seem. They don't have that killer instinct back there like they used to.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's mindset. I don't know if it's what they're being taught. I don't know if it's part of this too is the fact that I know it's Tom Allen and that he has now taken back over the defense. I get that, so it should look better. But part of this too is, remember, this is a team now that has had three different defensive coordinators in 3 seasons. And they've had 3 now different offensive coordinators in the last 4 seasons. So there has not been a consistent voice on either side of the football. Tom Allen has got to get that figured out. And I don't know. It's hard to make a switch in mindset. One of the things I'd like to kind of, I don't know if study is the right word or research or whatever, but Tom Allen is known to put an emphasis on takeaways, getting the football back. What I see when I see teams put an emphasis on turnovers, you can look back at Illinois with Lovey Ball. You can look at times
Lovey
Purdue.
Ball.
This is what Lovey preached. You can look back at other Purdue has had this issue at times. Michigan State really has this issue, especially the last 2 seasons. When you put an emphasis on taking the ball away, you see guys hitting the football more, trying to force a fumble, then you see them then get tackles, sure tackles. Look at Minnesota. Minnesota's defense is not great at forcing turnovers, but they tackle really well. Look at, like we just talked about with Zach Osterman, Rutgers does not get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They don't get a ton of turnovers. They tackle really well, and that makes a big difference. If Indiana could just keep things in front of them, I think that maybe they're not 5-2, but they would have won at least one of those games against Nebraska and Maryland. But they can't keep things in front of them. They try to play, and when you look at the other teams, they didn't have the talent to keep up with Nebraska's receivers, especially Trey Palmer. They didn't have the talent to keep up with the vast amount of playmakers that Michigan has in the running game and in the pass game. They didn't have the bodies to slow down Maryland's passing attack, especially with all the wide receivers they have. It's got to be about tackling. You want to force turnovers. I get it. But this team does not tackle well. And that is, number one, their biggest issue, in my opinion.
Tanis says Tom Allen needs to get mad and coach that way. Call those zero blitzes, not to tackle, but to maim, cripple, and injure. Well, let's not go that far. Make a point, make an example, make a statement. Well, let me rephrase that. And I agree with, yes, he needs to get mad and coach mad right now, but not in that way. But yes, to be a defense that is feared. This defense isn't feared. There's nobody on that defense that's feared. The secondary is not feared. The linebacking core is not feared. The front is not feared. There's no fear. Indiana's putting fear in no one.
Right. I think some of it too is miscommunication. Like, again, 3 defensive coordinators, 3 years, 3 different guys. Do these guys know what they're supposed to be doing? Are they getting put in bad spots? When Tywone Mullen getting beat or some of these other defensive players getting beat, it's not always solely on them. You might think that a safety is supposed to help with your coverage. You might think that there's a different play call. So it's not, you can't put it solely on them. When it's this consistently bad, there's something going on with the communication, with the play calling, whatever it might be, scheme. Tackling's an issue. I think communication is an issue. It's just stuff that's got to get fixed. And I don't know if it's going to happen this season or not, but you can at least get some momentum here because Rutgers' offense has not been good. Like I said, if you eliminate the big play, I think that they're going to have a great shot to win this game.
I think that they are as well, and I think that they're going to win this game. I actually picked them to win this week. Because the offense, it can be dangerous. especially when they're under pressure. Put them when they absolutely have to score.
Yep.
And how many times have we seen them do that this year? What, at least three touchdown drives in the last minute, or is it 4?
That's a good question. I don't know it off the top of my head.
I don't know either, but it's so they can perform. Now, another thing I want to know, and we'll get to this in a minute, but here's Greg Schiano talked about Indiana and playing them. John, if you've got that clip, we'll go ahead and hear what Coach Schiano had to say.
Couple things. Number one, offensively, they're the fastest tempo team in the country. They run more plays than any other team in the country. So we are going to have to get back, get aligned, get the call, and get our cleats in the ground, because otherwise they catch you off balance, and they've done that to several people. Oftentimes the film isn't ready to go. They go so fast. Literally, they want to snap it with 32 seconds on the clock. So to be able to run more plays than any team in America, that says something. I think they can throw the ball around pretty good. And then they get you on some run things that you're not, maybe your feet aren't quite set, and they catch you, and they've clipped off some good ones. Defensively, Coach Allen is a tremendous defensive coach. I followed him when he was an assistant and a defensive coordinator. They play really, really hard. I've read where they're concerned about their tackling, but I look at them and they're a very physical team. And I know when it's your team, you look at the issues differently. I think they're going to get. It sounds like they're going to get. They have 2 guys that were all Big Ten level performers. It sounds like they're getting one of them back in the secondary. It sounds like the linebacker will not be able to play, just by my reading into it. They're a good defensive team. They play a lot of people. They rotate up front. They do some things that are unique in the coverage structure that they run. And it's all sound. It's just not stuff you see every week. So really not the best when you change offensive coordinators, to add another variable in a different coverage structure.
There's Coach Greg Schiano talking about facing Indiana this week and the up-tempo offense, and that can be a problem, especially for a team like Rutgers. Well, hopefully for Indiana. We're want to take a break, John, before we get to Tom Allen. Looks like say hey to Gino. Gino out in Chandler, Arizona, going to the Hoosier Cafe in Chandler, Arizona. I'll have to look that up. He sent the link there, so I'll have to check that out. And then someone mentioned, who was it? Goran. I got John. Take that comment off. Goran Dragic wearing IU shoes.
I did not notice that.
And one other quick note: Greg Schiano coached Miami under Howard Schnellenberger. I did not know that.
I didn't know that either.
I covered Howard Schnellenberger at Louisville. The University of Louisville is on a collision course for the national championship. The only variable is time. We've got more Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming up, and we'll be back with it right after this. Brought to you by Cabello Restaurant, located on the square in Bloomington. Get the taste and traditions of Southern Italy right in Southern Indiana. Bloomington, Cabello Restaurant on the square. Part of the WOW Network. Go to your Apple app or Google Play Store. Sign up for the app, your WOW Club, and start earning WOW rewards today. I'm back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're a business, Mitchell's going to try to join this coming segment, but no guarantee.
Yeah, I texted him too. So, let's see. All right, so we got to pick some games. And what else was I just going to mention? There's something else.
There you go. Even though you don't have the red zone, you can still do
games. Got Tom Allen. We got to play that.
Tommy Allen.
Somebody sent me a message the other day and said,
"Go to hell."
That too. but they said, I'm surprised you didn't come back to Twitter as big a DS. And I was like, dang it, I should have been big DS energy on Twitter. Should have had some fun with it, but I did not. Failure on my part.
Do you feel, does Twitter feel different after taking, what was it, a 2-month break or something from it?
Not really. Oh. It's a little bit better for me because I'm not constantly scouring it. But I do feel the one thing I realized that's John is how much information regarding the Big Ten I got from there.
Yeah.
Like, I was not up to date on a lot of injuries or things like that. And then I got Twitter back and I'm like, wow, look at this vast array of information.
Yeah, there's. I wish the pros outweighed the cons, but I feel like they usually don't.
Yeah, correct.
Because then, whenever they don't, you don't think about those kinds of things.
Right, and that's what I was. That's one of the huge benefits. I'm like, wow, I know a lot more now just in having it back for a week than I did beforehand. So it's trying to keep it useful on my part.
I don't think I realize how much information I get off Twitter. Especially sports-related information.
Right.
I'm curious how many things I'd be in the dark about if I left for a couple of months.
It would be significant.
All right, here we go. Hopefully Mitchell will be able to join us, but if not, it's okay.
Simply go to thehoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Friday. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you. Jim Coyle, Dustin Schutte, as always. John, the producer. It's time to look at some games for this weekend. There's plenty going on, of course. We've got plenty of Big Ten games. I wish like heck that Jeffrey the Greek was with us this week. He's on assignment and can't make it. But Iowa is a 30-point underdog.
Yep.
When is the last time Iowa was a 30-point underdog?
I believe the last time they were a 4-touchdown or more was 99 or 2000. It's been over 20 years. I know that. And it was early in the Kirk Ferentz era. I couldn't tell you who it was against or anything like that, but it was one of those when they made the transition from Hayden Fry to Kirk Ferentz. It was one of those. So this is uncharted waters for the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that number and I was like, what? Wow. Shocking. Yeah. Of course, Indiana is a 3-point underdog at Rutgers, which means that's a push, basically coin toss. Yep. Again, I think Indiana's going to win that game, and it looks like Vegas is certainly giving them a chance to do that. So hopefully they'll get that pulled out. I picked them to win on the prediction earlier on the Hoosier.com, but man, is Ohio State going to put 30 points on Iowa? I mean, a margin.
I think it's possible.
But I know it's possible, but have they been beating teams that badly? Haven't they been scoring like 40? It's like 40 to. I think that's just a big spread, man.
It's a huge spread, especially because Iowa's defense is really good. Let's see. Ohio State beat Notre Dame by 11. Arkansas State 33. Let's see. Recently, they beat Michigan State 49-20. They beat Rutgers 49-10. They beat Wisconsin 52-21. Toledo 77-21. So it's possible. This is going to be by far the best defense they've faced. But I think the concern is, can Iowa avoid 3 and outs? Can they find something to do offensively that keeps that Ohio State offense on the sideline? I envision like a 34-7 type of game. So it would be right around that 29-30 point spread. I think Iowa's defense is really good, but I think at some point in the second half, Ohio State's just going to be on the field way too much, and Ohio State's going to take advantage.
I guess I missed this. There are people talking in the chat room, video talking about the video of a mountain climber getting attacked by a bear.
Can I send this to John and he play it? Because we actually tweeted this out at
Yes,
Outsider.
please
Let me
do.
see if I can find it really quick.
We'll get back to the football talk while you're doing that, but that's nuts. Holy cow.
Yes. It's about a 50-second video, so not terribly long. I'm going to send it to John right now. I just found it. It's on
John,
Twitter.
before I forget, though, let's go ahead and pull up Tom Allen. We spoke to him yesterday in advance of this game, and I asked Tom specifically about getting more touches for Josh Henderson. Last week in that game against Maryland, he had 8 touches for 80 yards. I think he had 5 carries for 20 yards. He averaged his season stats. He's averaging 4 yards a carry for the season. He's rushed for a little over 200 yards, but he's also doing the same thing out of the backfield, catching passes. I don't know why they're not getting the ball in his hands more. I mean, early on, you're like, well, and there are certain situations, I get it, and you can't just force that. But if that's your goal, your intent, how's that not happening? Make it happen.
Right.
And, at first when you listen to it's a situation, but now, no, it's not. Here's some numbers. And I used I wished I should have pulled him back up, but I was looking at his season stats when I asked the question, and I said, Coach, he's averaging 4 yards a carry out of the running game, of which is the worst part of Indiana's offense. He's doing this here, and he's a senior. It's not like he's a freshman, so they can't say he's this, that. But let's hear what Tom had to say.
Yeah, he's just been, as you mentioned, those numbers don't lie, and he's been very productive, when he has touched the ball. And so, yeah, I think, you go through and, we have different guys that we target and say, hey, we got to get these guys involved. And his name is now in that group, and so there's no question. We really love what he's able to do. As you mentioned, he's scoring with the ball in his hand as a running back, running the ball. He's catching footballs and scoring in that regard and doing a lot of things. It's like, I felt like in the beginning he had that versatility was his strength, and he's just been way more explosive and dynamic and productive than I think anybody could have forecast. So, which is awesome for him and for us. So, yeah, we definitely got another guy you want to be able to continue to rotate in and get touches. And with the tempo we play with, we're going to get a lot of snaps. So it gives those guys more opportunities. You see us playing with some two running back sets more than we have in the beginning, and so that's definitely on purpose to get your best players on the field. So that whole process continues as you continue to get guys in the fold, receivers, running backs, tight ends, and get them utilized. So yeah, that's the challenge and the balance of being able to utilize the guys you got. We do have several guys. We mentioned several guys across the board here, different positions that have stepped up, and Josh is one of them for sure. So just so proud of him. Like I said all along, man, what a super person, great young man, so dependable, tough guy, smart guy that has earned the respect of his teammates pretty quickly.
There you go. But that still doesn't really, they're acknowledging that, yeah, he's doing this. But I saw the comment by Caleb, that's the featured back.
Well, I don't understand.
Have I lost you or something?
I think you went on pause. Maybe it was my laptop that went haywire there. But the thing that bothers me about it is you've got Jalen Lucas and you got Josh Henderson who have been producing at a pretty strong level. John, is that Jim's going out or is it me?
That's Jim.
Okay. You've got both those guys competing at a high level, and probably if you have a three-man backfield that you feel good about, I think Sean Shivers is pretty good, but he's got a bad offensive line. Get all three of those guys involved in the offense. I don't care if they can't block. That certainly hasn't stopped anybody from playing on the offensive line. None of those guys can block. So get them involved. See if you can find something, a way for them to extend the run game. Keep fresh legs out there. That's one thing I want to see this weekend. I want to see those two guys, that trio, get a lot more play on the field, at least be a threat, at least be a decoy or something. Get them involved, get them on the field. I think Indiana's offense would benefit greatly from that. It's certainly not going to hurt it any.
No, I was trying to pull up Sean Shivers' stats. Is that the bear attack sitting up there on the video or something?
That's right. It's ready to roll whenever you all want to set it up.
For friends listening on a podcast or radio, you won't be able to see this, but I will narrate. Go ahead and quickly run this, just because I haven't seen it. But this guy is literally climbing a freaking mountain.
I mean, the bear is attacking him on the side of a mountain here. He's swatting it, screaming. You can hear in the background, kicking this bear. I don't know. It looks like a younger black bear.
Yeah, that's enough of that because you can't see it. But I would advise you to go look that up. I will do that later myself. That's crazy. Holy cow! When did that happen?
I don't know when it happened. We posted about it earlier this week. So I don't know if it's an older video, if it happened actually this week, but I mean, that GoPro captured. I mean, that bear just came out of nowhere. I would be dead. I would have fallen off. I don't know if the bear would have killed me, but I definitely would have fallen off the side of the mountain that he was climbing there. I'm worried about running into a bear on stable ground on a clear path. So imagine running into it while you're trying to climb a mountain and the bear's attacking you. It's not just there and you're trying to nudge it away. It's literally attacked him.
Now, if these stats are true, which I'm a little shocked at seeing, according to ESPN stats for 2022, Sean Shivers has rushed the ball 99 times for 402 yards, and that's a 4.1 average. That's shocking to me. Now, he only has 4 touchdowns, 99 attempts. Okay, he's got 99 rushing the ball, but his longest is 15 yards.
You know who he kind of reminds me of?
On all of those, and he only has a total of 4. He only has 4 TDs.
Yeah, his
receptions. He's got 19 receptions for 97 yards. Where he averages 5.
I think Jim's laptop's cutting out again. So I don't know what the numbers are there for Sean Shivers of the 4 touchdowns, but he reminds me of Stevie Scott a little bit. He doesn't necessarily have that big play ability where he's going to run 65, 70 yards to the end zone, but he can be a power back. And I don't know this I just think the offensive line has a lot to do with that. It probably had the same thing with Stevie Scott. And that's why I want to see Jalen Lucas and I want to see Josh Henderson, because I do think that those guys have that kind of ability where they can break a big play and get you 40 to 50 yards. You need a guy like Sean Shivers who is going to, maybe he doesn't have that big play ability, but if you need 2 yards, he can get you 3. He can keep you on schedule. He's that type of back. But you also need the big play guy.
I don't know though. I haven't seen that. Indiana has been horrible on 3rd down conversions this year. Horrible.
Right, but
they were 3 of 11 last week, I think.
Right. He can do it. He's a more physical back is what I'm saying. Like I said, I think a little bit more of it has to do with the offensive line not getting a push up front when he's running. but they need him to be able to pick up those 3 to 4 yards. They just also need to have the big playability, and that's where I think that those other two guys we've been talking about would play a huge role in that.
Purdue is at Wisconsin this week. They are getting 2.5 points on the road, but that's no surprise to me. Wisconsin, man, coming off a loss at home to the Illini, the Big Ten West leader, Illini, whose only loss has come to Indiana. Wouldn't it be hilarious? Yes, it would be hilarious if Indiana somehow managed to pull out a win at the end of the season over Purdue, and Indiana will have beaten
the two best teams.
Will probably end up the two best teams in the West. Do you think that I will not make a T-shirt of that and send that to Jeffrey the Greek? Oh my God! IU 2, Big Ten West 0.
Yeah, that would be it. That is maybe the biggest surprise of the season so far, is that Indiana beat Illinois, because I think if you play that game right now, there's no chance.
Well,
and I know it's all about no, you don't play it now, but it's interesting how the seasons have changed for both of those teams. After that game, I still felt good about Illinois getting to a bowl game. I felt even better about Indiana getting to a bowl game. Now, Illinois has already clinched a bowl appearance at the very least. They could very well end up in Indianapolis, and Indiana is hanging on to its bowl hopes for dear life. They have to get a win this weekend. So very interesting to see how those directions have gone. But look, the Purdue-Wisconsin line is, to me, a direct result of the last 15 years or last 15 meetings. Purdue hadn't beaten Wisconsin since 2003. And I think that was at Camp Randall Stadium. 12 of those games have been decided by 11 points or more. So they haven't even been particularly close.
What happens this week?
I think it's hard for me to erase that trend, because Purdue
has been up and down. Every time I think that they're up, they go down.
You know what was interesting after that game against Nebraska? Jeff Brom said in his opening statement in the post-game press conference, he said, well, if you want a close game, no matter who we're going to play, come out to Ross-Ade, because we're apparently going to give you a show. So I don't think Purdue will be able to put its foot on the gas against Wisconsin. This is a home game for the Badgers. They still have a lot of pride in that program. I do think Purdue wins. I think I had the score around 30-24 on the Eyes on Big podcast. So another close game, but I think Purdue ends the losing streak to Wisconsin this week.
Let's see. Also, Northwestern's getting 14 points at Maryland. Is Tagovailoa playing?
He is. I don't believe he is. No. So that's why it's only 14 points.
But
it doesn't matter. No.
You don't think?
No. Northwestern is god awful. They are bad.
Yeah, but they don't have a passing game without Tagovailoa.
It doesn't matter. Northwestern can't stop the run either.
Well, there's that. All right, so there's that.
Yeah, they are. They are awful.
Here's a great East-West crossover game. Little mini Minnesota Golden Gophers. They're getting 4.5 points traveling to Happy Valley to take on the Penn State Nittany Lions. That's an equally matched game right there, and I would just have to go with the home team just because it's the home team. That's a very difficult place to go into and play. And so,
here's something to look for in this game. First of all, it's a whiteout, so that should give Penn State a home field advantage. But the problem is Penn State does not play well. I don't know what James Franklin message is after a loss. Penn State does not play well after they lose a game. 2017, they lost back-to-back games to Ohio State, Michigan State. And by the way, these weren't good Michigan State teams. 2018 lost back-to-back games to Ohio State and Michigan State. 2019 lost to Minnesota, barely beat Indiana, and then I think they lost to Ohio State. 2020, downward spiral. Last year, lost to Iowa, downward spiral. I'm not convinced that Penn State is going to bounce back, and I think their play in the trenches is really bad. I mean, it would be one thing if Michigan rushed for 270 yards. Then I would say it was just because Michigan's offensive line is really good. They rushed for over 400 yards in that game. I think Minnesota is going to take advantage, and I think Minnesota is going to win on the road.
We'll certainly find out about out of time, but quickly some other games of just note. I see Cincinnati is a 3.5-point favorite only at SMU, so there's going to be a tight one. Kansas getting 10 or giving up. Yeah, they're getting 10 at Baylor.
Wow.
I mean, did I read that right?
Baylor's falling off the cliff.
And Kansas is getting 10 points?
That seems far-fetched for me, but hey, whatever.
Washington is at Cal, and Washington has given up a touchdown and a half. 7.5 points, rather.
Well, Cal just got beat by Colorado, so that's a problem.
And I'm like, why are they only a 7.5-point underdog?
It's a good question. It's a great question. I don't know about the injury situation, so maybe that's a factor.
Well, there you go. So it's been another great day. I can't thank everyone enough. As always, big thanks to Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. Make sure you give Alec a follow and go to thehoosier.com and sign up for a subscription to keep up to date on all news recruiting information for IU. We'd appreciate that. That's how we are able to provide this content for you. So understand that. Also, Zach Osterman from the Indy Star, as always, and our co-host, the man of the hour, Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com. You can go there and check that out. They have some nice, fun, different weekend, some good fun content that you can do when the games are not going on. Of course, John, the producer, as well. Most importantly, you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here, and we can't thank you enough. Big thanks to Reynolds Family Dentistry, of course. If you're down in the southern Indiana area, down in Sellersburg, go see Dr. J for that championship smile. He keeps me smiling. But it's been a great day. It's been a great week. It's going to be a beautiful weekend. Get out and enjoy it. Have some fun. Watch some football. Enjoy the family. Until Monday, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.